So, welcome back to the Renewables podcast. Before we get into the conversation today, we just want to touch on some products from our sponsors at Proteus. And I'm going to start, Sam, with this SPD that they've got. Now, with these, you can mount them straight onto the buzz bar. You don't need to have an overcurrent protected device for them, which is super handy when we're limited for space. And we're trying to combine a smaller renewables board maybe with some EPS circuits. There's a lot of uses for these. They're absolutely fantastic. We've been using them for a good few months now, not that long out on the market. So yeah, absolutely fantastic that Proteus are looking after us as installers. And you've got another range of products over there.
I have, yeah. I've got the coloured Henley blocks, or 100 amp link blocks as some people call them. And gone are the days. I'm a bad contractor for using the black ones for so long, the Bakelite ones, because you try and knock one of these top knockouts out and it basically shatters the full thing. And I'm guilty enough to say that I didn't know these existed. So we started using these now, and they're absolutely fantastic. Solid. You've got the little blanks in here as well. So if you don't use one of the terminals, you can blank it off or just slide it out when you do need to use it. They're fantastic, and obviously they're all coloured as well, so that you know exactly the phase colour and the colour of the cable or the phase that's going into it. So yeah,
even the
pieces.
functional earth, or the Cranis collection as it is called, in pink. And they work with the 3mm Allen keys, which is consistent through the range of the mains tails isolators as well. So they've got us at heart, I think, as installers. You're not messing around with different screws and heads. Another fantastic range of equipment to tie in with the bi-directional RCBOs, which is obviously the leading product Proteus have got at the minute. And they've had that for a long time, which is really helping us again as renewables installers. And that's one of the reasons that we're so happy to be working with Proteus on this show. But without any further ado, let's get back to the chat.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Renewables podcast. And we're joined by a very special guest and someone that I know very well, which is Michael Stott from East Renewables. But before we start chatting to Michael, how are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing all right. I feel like I'm underdressed. You guys are looking in matching attire. I want an oval top as well, so I don't know when we're going to get that sorted out.
Mike's getting 50 quid for putting that on.
I'm good, mate. It's nice to be here with you guys, having another chat about solar and backgrounds and stuff. I love these podcasts, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's great. And I believe Michael has been working with you today, has he?
He has, yeah. He's been doing all the work, actually. So
as he does with us. So I'll bring Mike in now and introduce him. So, Michael, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
What would you prefer? I've gone straight in for Michael, but what would you prefer, Mike or Michael?
Depends what I've done wrong. What do you call me on site?
Well, we can't say that. We're a PG podcast. But I'll go Mike then, since it's a little bit shorter. But so yeah, how are you doing, Mike? You enjoyed your day firstly with Mark and his team?
It's been hard. I must admit, I've been actually having to do some work for a change.
Well, that's another 50 quid that I owe you.
But no, it's been really good, and just say thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, no problem.
You having the likes of Graham Kenyon and Jordan Brompton on the podcast.
Yeah, well, they'll be referencing you soon, Mike. Don't worry about that. But no, we've got Mike on really because he's got a really interesting backstory as to from being a young lad, young whippersnapper, all the way through school and going to different areas of business. We've had another person on that's had a completely different story, but has ended up in renewables. So it's really interesting to try and get a view of everyone's different route into electrical, but also obviously renewables, with us being the Renewables podcast. So that's what we're going to talk about today and touch back on Mike's route through into that. So yeah, do you want to start us off then, Mike? Where did it all begin? What were you like at school? Were you a good student of your school?
So I think in the school days, I was just staring out the window. Can't wait to get out of school just to go and do something and get my hands into something. So yeah, school days felt long and boring, really. But I can always remember my granddad saying, "What you want to do is going to be an electrician." You could obviously recognise something in me. So yeah, I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. Got loads of books and things as a young kid. I was probably practically rewiring the house, putting new electric showers in, sockets in the house, all sorts. So sorry to my mum and dad.
Yeah, and the house is still standing. I assume it's not burnt down.
I believe it is. Yeah. It wasn't that long ago I put solar on the roof.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's really interesting. I think when you were at school then, what was it like in terms of encouragement to go into trades and what have you? Because we're from different generations, and I know from when I was there, it was literally you are going to university, you're going to sixth form, then university, and if you don't go down that route, you basically felt like they were saying that you're a bit of a failure for going down the non-further education route through university. And obviously you do a lot of apprenticeship stuff, Mark, in that side of things, but do you feel like you were encouraged to go into a trade back at school, or?
No, absolutely not. I can actually remember sitting with a careers advisor and they're going through things like, well, what you'd be up for is sort of computing or something like that. And there was never any sort of mention of the trade side, and it was do the A-levels route. And I think because that suited the school I was at, you just do your GCSEs, move on to A-levels, then like say move on to university. There was never actually any mention of this is an option for you. I was never aware.
Sounds like nowadays. Do you see that?
It's just the same. I know when I'm 43, so when I was at school, there's the same process for me. I was pushed into sixth form. I left after 6 weeks because I just really didn't want to do it. But you kind of take that feedback from people who you consider as like, I don't know, mentors or whatever, people who should know how to advise you best. And like, you should go to sixth form. You don't want to go into trades. So I left and went to study to be an electrician. But even now, lots of people are all pushed down that university kind of tunnel. And the ones who were a little bit naughty maybe and maybe not paid attention at school looking out the windows, they're the ones who were pushed to any trade like scattergun. Just like, you go and do joinery, building, electrics. There's no real focus on trying to map people, I don't think, in construction from school anyway.
I think it's difficult as well because you don't really get a huge experience of different trades when you're at school either. You get maybe design technology or, some of the ICTs and all that where you get to do computing and that, but actually getting your hands on tools, I know when I was there, they were just terrified you're going to chop a finger off or something like that and they get sued. But, I suppose when people are coming out of education and don't want to continue it, it's kind of like, well, where do you point them? I suppose your granddad was there a reason why that he saw something in the electrical side for you? Was that what you were messing about with most, really?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think he was a very practical person. He was a maintenance manager and he sort of did a lot of things like that. And I think he could see that I, liked working with my hands. But then I think I kind of forgot what he'd said to me almost. Went down the school route, followed the school route, ended up trying to do A-levels and in computing and business studies. Didn't like it, left after a year, and then went into the world of work, and that was IT sort of based work. And
I think that is, I'm just thinking of my family again. Matthew, he went to sixth form and left after maybe 12 weeks, I think, and then came to be an electrician. Nathan did the full A-levels and then a year at uni before he bailed on all that because he never really wanted to do it. It's just kind of where he was pushed, and despite my strong instruction to be an electrician, he ignored me at that stage. So he came back down that route. And now Jack as well, he's 12 and he's at school, and there's no mention of any kind of trades. They're all talking to him about computer science, programming, even like healthcare roles, physiotherapy and stuff. They have all that pushed at him. He helped me build a shed at home the other week, and he was there with a nail gun going away. It's like, oh, this is great. I love doing this. You could do it as a job, mate, when you're older if you want. It's like, well, people get paid to do this. Of course they do. It's they just don't know.
I think it'd be interesting to chat to someone about all of this as well. Obviously, you do a lot, Mark, in the apprenticeship world, but it seems like it's a bit of a difficult nut to crack. I don't know why, but. That's maybe a conversation for somebody, that can impact on that. But so you mentioned then you've come out of you've started down that route of doing A-levels and everything else, but you've left after, was it a week? Did you say, or a year? Just
about a year. Just shy of a year. Took the first exams and went, this really ain't
so then you basically went and thought, well, I've got these skills in the computing side. I want to try and find a job in that. Is that kind of how it
Pretty
went?
much, yeah. Through people I knew, ended up doing some IT support, some computer stuff, building computer stuff, bit of electronic sort of stuff. Yeah, that sort of then just spiraled on and into the world of work, and yeah, got into some web stuff because that was all the rage back then.
So what year is this then, Mike, that you're
It's
doing
about
this?
2000, so it's dot-com
2000.
boom sort of era, wasn't it? Yeah, the internet was really
Millennium
taking
bug.
off. Yeah, yeah. In fact, I went on courses for the Millennium Bug, for some of the people I was helping support,
Yeah.
because they were worried all their systems were going to shut down.
As the it turned over from
Yeah,
9.
so I can remember
1,
partying very hard that night, feeling very relieved when the clock went over.
Yeah, and everything. Yeah,
Fine,
you forget. I mean, I was very, very young at that point, but since then, I've obviously I've heard about it, and just the sheer amount of fear that everything, the world will basically shut down just because we're gonna.
It drove the whole industry for probably over a year, really, and the money that was poured into.
Yeah, I remember there was worried GP surgeries wouldn't be able to function, hospitals would go off, even down to the local taxi companies not being able to work. It was all over the news, wasn't it? It was massive.
Computers replaced left, right, and
To
centre.
think that was designed in from the start, that could be an end date of computing. Imagine they did it now. It's like
Yeah. Oh, that's so you were working in sort of web design, IT support, and everything like that straight out of school then, and that kind of propelled you into getting money for your time and your kind of knowledge then.
Yeah, sort of working to live and sort of hustling and but very much self-employed side. So I had that sort of self-employment sort of side from early on. Really, never actually really wanted to take an employed role somewhere. I like that sort of flexibility.
That flexibility and that peril, I think sometimes. There is a bit of peril.
Absolutely,
isn't there? Yeah. So I suppose you're learning two things there then, really. You're learning about, how to do all of this IT support and web design, because it's very different no matter what you do when you come out of school or you come out of college, and you're learning how to, you're putting all that theory into practice, but you're also learning how to invoice and how to, record your time and everything like that. It's you learn the business side and the support side. So how long did you do that kind of role for?
I think it was probably around sort of seven odd years. But it soon sort of grew tired of the changes in the industry. It just sort of wore you down. Obviously, things in the internet took a bit of a dive as well. And I was just kind of fed up with it and
lost the love of it.
Yeah, and still that sort of passion with my hands to do something. And it was, I think someone actually said to me, "You just got to do what you're passionate. You just got to do."
Yeah.
I thought, well, I like working with my hands, so that led me on to sort of doing a bit more sort of property maintenance sort of side of things and doing that. And then there was always that kind of itch in the back of my head. You need to be an electrician. You need to be an electrician.
Yeah.
And then a chap I was doing some work for, he was actually a tutor on the electrical courses for a college nearby. And he said, well, all you really need to do is, I can tell you've got the sort of practical abilities. So it's like, come and do sort of some domestic courses. 17th edition was around then. Do that. So I sort of started down that road. And I think about a year later, then went off to do 2391, and it was still the written exam back then. And you'd do that, and you'd have to wait 3 weeks for the results. And it was like 3 anxious weeks because it was always like not many people passed that. And there was a chap on the course that think he'd failed it, bless him, about 5 times. And he was a really old boy. And and thankfully I got a message through to say you passed that. And then from there sort of joined up with Alexa, as it was back then. I think it's part of NIC now, or it's been merged into that. And kind of that was my route into actually sort of practicing electrical and going off and doing domestic installation.
Yeah. Right. So was that all self-funded then? Did you have to pay for all of that, or was that?
I paid. Yeah. Literally had to sort of work and pay. Yeah.
Because we had that with Aidan, didn't we? That we recorded last week. That was all I think the majority of it was all self-funded, wasn't it?
There's such a lot of people who do that. I mean, through Apprentice 1-to-1, I speak to a fair few of them, but Matt Telford and Dan Bryan are another two I can think of straight away, who were self-funding as adult retrainees, and even some younger people as well. You know, these things aren't low cost either. There's option skills going into Apprentice 1-to-1 things again who've just gone bust, taken like 1,000+ learners with them, millions of pounds as well. People taken for 10 grand odd. So it's like training's in a mess. So it's good that you actually found your way through. And the 239 one in its old form, it was such a hard, I think it's about 35% pass mark, probably less actually. And I have this argument with Matthew because he's done the newer one. I was like telling him it's nothing like as hard as it used to be, and he's adamant that it still is. I think we always have those kind of debates. But I think on the new one, actually, there's one section that you have to get fully 100% right, and it's like the visual side where they show you pictures, and you have to understand what the code should be. And if you get any single thing of that wrong, you fail. So that's a bit more pressured than when I did mine.
I often think if I had to go back and redo these
I would fail it, I'm sure.
I'm sure that's the same for a lot of electricians. And, you know, obviously we've been quite electrical heavy on this podcast so far because it's our natural home, but it'll be interesting to chat to some plumbers when we can convince them to come on. If they have the same experience. My assumption is that they do, but I think you get those practical skills, and you get I won't say rule of thumbs because there's still quite a lot of design in electrical work, but you get into especially when you're in a specialism like renewables, or, you know, it's been a specialism for quite a while, you kind of get into that rhythm of what you install that I feel like, you know, some of the EICR codings and lots of other things that we just don't, it's not in my business. I feel like it would be a fair step for me to jump straight back into that. But so it just emphasises how difficult those exams are to pass. So for anyone that's doing them now, that's listening to this, if you fail it and you pass it, you know, 2-3 times on the road, you're probably in the same ballpark as a lot of electricians would be if they went back through it, because I know I would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be bricking it if I had to go back.
I absolutely bricked it at the time. I was sat in that room and everyone else had cleared off and I was still there right to the end, and that's like, God, I've messed this up so bad. I've messed it up. In hindsight, what it turned out is I think everyone else had looked at it and gone, I can't do this, and cleared off, or done the best they could and then cleared off, whereas I took it down to the end, and it turns out I was the only one in that room at the time that passed it.
Stuart was like, come on, Mike.
Basically, yeah.
It's 3 o'clock on a Friday, Mike. Why are you still writing? It's
preparation, isn't it, with those kind of things. Even like the regs updates. I've done is it Sparky Facts, where you can do a little test. So when the regs were last updated, I was like, I'm not going to revise, I'm just going to do it. And I think I barely scraped through. And that was like a big eye-opener that you have to, however long you think you've been doing it, put the preparation in and do the studying, and then you can pass these things.
It's not easy, and that's why, you know, devaluing of the trades as it has been for a lot of years, where it's just getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. The courses you've got to pass get more expensive and more onerous, and you kind of ended up your time and your knowledge gets diluted in the fact that the rates are not anywhere near probably where they should be for electricians, but it's difficult to change that unless everybody just decides to change it, which is a tricky one. So to bring you back in then, Mike, we've gone down a bit. We like going down rabbit holes on this. Absolutely. But so you've done your courses. You've got your 17th edition, your 2391 now, and then what you kind of like, right? I'm going to crack on and do some electrical work.
Doing rewires. Electrical work, I can still taste the dust from the rewires now. I'd never want to touch another rewire. You know, I won't even buy a wall chaser because I'm not taking myself down that road.
They are a different beast. But we've chatted to a few people now, and it seems like that's where you have to cut your teeth. You have to do it so that you can be part of the rewire club.
I was saying to my guys a couple of days ago, actually, I don't think we've done a rewire this year, and Mike was like, "Good." I was like, I think we should do one. He's like, nah, we don't need to do one this year. It's like, no one really likes it, do they? But we all have to kind of do it.
I'm doing one at the minute for one of my best mates, and his price is going up daily because I just do not want to do it. But
was that self-employed then, Mike? When you were getting into doing domestic, you want subbing for anyone? It's your own customers.
Yeah, no, it was literally my own customer base. Yeah. full on self-employed.
And how did you find that as a new business coming out? And
It was hard.
What did you do? Did you go on to?
It was all
leaflets?
recommendation, word of mouth, and
Yeah.
sort of one job just sort of fed on to another. Someone said, "Oh, I need this doing." Someone else said, "Oh, yeah, I need this doing." What was interesting actually at the time, someone, because I think it was early feed-in tariff days, and someone actually said, "I want solar on my roof. I'll pay for you to go through and do all your courses and do your MCS." And I actually turned around and went, "I'm not sure it's for me."
Well, it's good to have you on the Renewables podcast. Right?
At the time, and when you think back to one of them moments, like, wow, why did I say that?
Missed an opportunity
Someone
there.
was prepared to fund and put it through just so they could have their install done by me. And
I suppose thinking of you in your position there, you've just gone through all of your exams and you've kind of getting out there, and sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming to then add another set of, another sort of complete area of work. I mean, it was, I'd say, even more specialist then because you had a lot more hoops and paperwork to jump through during the feed-in tariff days than you do now. They've tightened some things up on the MCS side. But yeah, the whole feed-in tariff paperwork, I remember doing that as a youngish sort of apprentice, and I don't think any of the bosses wanted to do it, so they used to say, "Oh, go and get them to fill that in," and I used to have to go take like a copy home and learn where they had to sign and where they had to, fill stuff in and all of that. But there was a lot to it back then, and so speaking for the younger you, it might have just felt like a bit of a step too far possibly, But yeah, it sounded like a good opportunity. But you're in it now, Mike, which is
absolutely,
the main thing.
and I think I don't regret it because the path it's took since that.
Yeah. No, it's good. So you were cracking on doing rewire every week and everything like that, and just loving being on the tools.
Yeah, I think for a good enough time, and then fast forward sort of a few years, friend of mine sort of asked me to come and just help him do some bits on his web design company.
So he knew your background in that area and just said, "I really need to do it."
Yeah, we'd obviously been friends for a number of years, and just sort of said, "I need some help with the business. Things are not in a mess, but like any business, they've got their problems and issues. They're bad accountant in there."
Yes.
Oh, that rings a bell.
It does, yeah. But sorry, mate. Yeah, carry on.
So things like that, and he was trying to scale the business. There wasn't necessarily the processes in place, so he just needed some help with that, and it was a home-based business. And so I sort of started off doing a few bits on that, just sort of trying to help him get on track and sort of a few things like his invoicing processes out, bits like that, and kind of just spiraled from there really. Just gradually started doing more and more days there, and it was difficult then to do a balance of that and do trades work because you kind of need it out on site, 3 or 4 days a week. If you're on a trade, you can't just say, "Oh, I'm not here tomorrow. I've knocked your electric off and I'm not here tomorrow because I'm doing this." And so it kind of just gradually, I think, just sort of formed into that and ended up doing that near enough full time.
Wow.
And basically, so this web design business that was purely pretty much a web design business. We sorted out a lot of the issues, kicked out the accountant, found a new accountant. I think that was one of my first jobs actually, was to go and find a new accountant. And sort of turn this business, not just me, but between us all, there was a few people there who turned it into a business that was a home-based business where everyone was working from home. Managed to end up finding premises for the business, bring everyone together in an office space, and also turn it from not only a web design business, it's then started to become an actual branding business. So doing up brochures, print media, etc. Sort of cleaned the business up a lot between us all, and it was great fun, to be honest. It was so that's kind of where it diverted me to that, and then that got turned into a brand called Wigwag, which is actually quite well known in the heating industry, alongside Worcester Bosch.
Yeah. So how long were you doing that for then?
Again, that was probably like about seven years,
Wow.
and we basically, it was a chance meeting with a what I thought was just a plumber. I was having a conversation. I think I bought something off him from Gumtree. It was really weird, and just ended up, because he was a tradie and we ended up talking for a good hour or so. And what struck me, he'd got real vision for his business, him and his business partner, and he was sort of telling me we're in 5 years, we'll have this many vans, this many installers, we'll be, installing these boilers and the heating controls, we're going to open the showroom. He just had so much vision and passion. And I never remember sort of having that sort of vision and passion when I was in the trade. And I thought, yeah, he's really going somewhere.
So is this the wigwag guy, or is this the plumbing and heating?
This is the plumbing and heating guy, Mark, from a company called Warm for Life. And it's just like, I came away and I was like, I'm going to look at their website. And I was like, their website's pretty good actually for a plumber and that, and they install these boilers. And I kind of remember thinking, I think we ought to be working with people like this. And then a few months went by, and then there was a mutual contact. They actually said, I'm doing some work with this company, but they're absolutely fed up with their web designers or something. They can't get things right. Would you have a look at it? And so, ironically, this Mark came in to see us. We ended up working with them, and we rebuilt this website. Started with the website, I think, and Worcester Bosch just recognised this website as like one of the best in the industry, and went, we need websites like this for our other heating installers that are like Worcester accredited installers. And so before we knew it, we turned the business from a sort of just pure sort of web design business into a sort of full-on branding business and assisting what turned out to be heating installers, heating engineers. It was quite a transformation from a web design business that kind of, I don't know, it might have done a website for a spring company or just random companies, whereas then we turned the focus on to a specific niche and industry.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously with us, Mark, as well, it's like obviously your business, you've angled that into the renewables niche as well, and it only takes that conversation with that one person, or that like that chance meeting that you had, Mike, to completely spin things, doesn't it? And it's crazy how it's those little moments that can really change things. You kind of think of those big, that it would be those big sit down family board meeting that we're going to divert our attention to this, but actually it's that little seed that's planted by somebody, or that little conversation that you have for an hour out of your day, that then can either send your business under maybe, or send it through the roof and scale it up.
It sort of helped it find that niche that it needed to be, and it obviously wasn't all my work, but it was just little things like that. And then by sorting the team out, sorting the business out, and then sort of happening on that niche, it then grew from there, and Wigwag's just grown from strength to strength.
Yeah,
I think it's Matty and Nathan who drove my business to where it's going now, because they really, I've said on the podcast before, they really wanted to do it. I think that was a chance meeting with, I think it was an inverter manufacturer actually, which really spiked their interest. I'm very much old school, traditional electrician side of things, and I don't think I'll ever change from that, but I've really enjoyed actually going on this journey now. We're doing it, and if it wasn't for them, I'd have probably stuck traditional to the end of my time, I think. So it's been a bit of a blessing for me in a way, learning about all this stuff, because it's really interesting.
It's probably, you probably start to come across it more as well in your standard electrical passion. You probably would have started to come across it a lot more, like when we've spoken to, not on the podcast, but other electricians that are worrying about doing the ICRs and coming across inverters and not having ever done anything to do with solar. Like the chances a few years ago would have been that would have come across one solar installation in 100 houses that they worked in, whereas now it's maybe 1 in 10, and they're having to code bi-directional RCBOs. They're having to code does this inverter need RCD protection and all this sort of stuff, and it's kind of like a bit of a completely different world for them. So I think it's kind of inevitable that a lot of people will start to come across this kit more, because it's just simply in more people's houses and businesses where they're working anyway.
Yeah. It's like electric vehicle charge points as well. There's some contractors who are just like, nah, I'm not having anything to do with that either. But these are going to be everywhere. Same with solar PV, battery storage. Give it 10 years, it will be absolutely everywhere. And you've got no choice. You're going to have to upskill and start looking at this. Even if you don't want to install it, you need to know how to work with it, maybe maintain it. Because it's not for everybody. We were speaking today, weren't we, Mike, about the size of these solar panels and getting a bit older and lugging them around and stuff. It's like they're huge, aren't they?
Yeah, they're only getting bigger.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, some people might not want that, which is fine. But you need to know how it all works and maybe be able to swap inverters, swap AC isolators and other bits and pieces and test it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's you kind of can't, if you want to be in the electrical industry, you have to have a bit of a knowledge of most sectors, or at least have other people that you can call upon to help you with that.
Just to interject today's show, we want to speak to you about another awesome product from Proteus, and that is the Type B RCBO that they've just brought out, Sam. We saw that in person on the podcast we did with Proteus, and again, it's helping us as installers, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievable how they have managed to engineer it to fit it all within a single module. I remember fitting the ones that are about 3 or 4 modules wide. How they've managed to engineer that into one module is an absolute, I don't know how they've done it, but it's fantastic that they have.
They have, and it's bi-directional as well. So again, thinking of us as installers for those PV and EV systems. And that is why we are so proud and honoured to be sponsored by Proteus on the Renewables podcast. But let's get back to the show.
But so you're at Wigwag then, Mike, revolutionising their business.
Well, I wouldn't say it was all me.
No,
there
I've
was
said
a
it.
great
Well,
team behind it, and that's I think that's how it worked, and that I think that's the
I make
emphasis
it all
on
you,
that
to be
team.
honest, Mike.
Yeah. No, but so you're working hard there, and then I'm assuming it's kind of itchy feet again when you're there, or
Yeah, well, we all know what kind of happened in 2020 without sort of
yeah.
spelling it out. And of course, so I found myself with a little bit more time on my hands because we were all unsure. We sort of, everyone sat down, what's going to happen? We don't know. So, yeah, a bit more time on my hands. And I thought, well, if the worst's going to happen, I really want a new roof on my house. It's a random, I don't know why, but it was a job. I thought, must get that job done. So decided, order or get my roof done, and that's what I started doing during the start of 2020. And then as things sort of eased a bit, we actually decided, well, you know what, we can refurbish the building at Wigwag, so we did a lot of the refurbishment there. So I was really hands-on with the tools again, started building an extension on my house. Yeah, absolutely hands-on with the tools. And I think things started from there, and then I was coming up to sort of 40th birthday, I think 2022, and if I don't get back on the tools now, I'm probably never going to get back on the tools. And there's an itch you probably need to scratch.
Yeah, and give it a go again.
Yeah, and I could also see, I think, I could see Renewables was really evolving again. I obviously had it dip from the feed-in tariff days, but it was starting to become an interest again. Batteries were becoming affordable and available. I could see the renewable tech merging as well with the heating installers. They were starting to look at the aircon side of things. Heat pumps were starting to become. I could see all this tech merging, and I could see how heating installers would be into the electrical side of things. And then I think I went to Solar and Storage Live. I can't remember, it's 2021, I think it was. And I was just absolutely blown away with the tech and the kit that was available. I was just, this is amazing. And I was looking to put batteries on my house anyway because I'd got existing solar PV on the house. And so I just got really knee deep into it, and I was like, absolutely, this is where I want to be.
Yeah. That brings us back to the trade shows, Mark. Obviously, we've done an episode fairly recently about Installer Show, and then there's others like Solar and Storage Live. We're kind of in this world now where we think everything that isn't digital is kind of old-fashioned and isn't worth bothering with, but I think there is a real special place, certainly in the trades, for shows like Installer Show, Solar and Storage Live, and there's a few others as well, some of the EV shows and things, but getting in front of people, still having that human conversation, holding the products, seeing where the terminals are, where you bring the cables in, all this sort of stuff that you can see online, but you don't. It's not that physical thing. It's I still think there's a massive place for that.
Totally. I think it's really important. I mean, CEF Live's another massive one in our industry that they do every couple of years. It's huge. And just seeing stuff in front of your eyes. it's all good on social media and video content, but sometimes you're not seeing the whole range of stuff in those places anyway. It's a lot of the big brands who can afford the marketing budgets to get their stuff out there online. When sometimes some of the best innovations are from some of the smaller brands who get going. And you see it in the EV charging space. There's so many products out there now, isn't there? And if you didn't see them at these trade shows, you'd maybe never not be aware of, like Simpson and Partners, who came along out of nowhere, sort of. So there's all this kind of innovation that goes on and can be inspiring to us at these shows.
Yeah, I remember seeing My Energy when they first came out, and you think of My Energy as this massive company now, but when it was just them, and a sort of Rolex was dominating the market, you never thought anything would happen to Rolex, and I think it's still going now, but the market has moved massively away from Rolex. Really, it's almost gone too far the other way. They've sort of lost a lot of their market share, but those companies have to get their products out in front of people and actually talk to people. And I think that's where the relationships are still built, even in a digital world. It's the trade shows are absolutely vital, and it just goes to show that there's still demand for them, because that installer show that you were doing bits for, and I went to, was double the size it was last year. It was absolutely massive, and it was. There must be a demand for it, otherwise they wouldn't spend all that money to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's big marketing campaigns along a lot of the inverter manufacturers at the minute where they're doing like buy a couple get one free, or there's these payment reward schemes where you can get your Amazon vouchers for install. So there's a lot of competition from all those brands. So they love it getting in front of contractors and engaging with us. It's like sometimes you don't know all the features and problems that certain kit can solve. You might go along and see Solar Edge or whatever on one of these stands. It's actually our app now. You can dial in and make all these changes remotely. And then we might have been historically thinking, I don't want to fit Solar Edge, just for an example, because you've got to go to site and log in to change any settings. Remote control is quite difficult. So it's that interaction on a stand that can shift people's mindsets towards a manufacturer, I think. So
yeah, absolutely. And you've only got so much headspace for certain things when you're in the trenches of business, actually taking that day or 2 days or 3 days, if you can afford to do it, to actually just go and chat to other brands that you don't fit and just see what's out there. Like, I don't actively fit Give Energy, but going there and actually looking at the all-in-one and some of these other kit that wasn't out when I last spoke to them, it's just interesting to kind of try and keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening outside of the kit that you're fitting as a company now. But you must come across a lot of different kit, Mike, with kind of jumping forward a little bit, but with your, since we're on this vein, with doing more of the contracting side and things like that, you must see quite a lot of different equipment that you're
it's a lot of different brands, and it's good in a way to then be contracting with different people, seeing the different brands that are out there, because you can easily get fixated on, well, this is what we always use, and you never actually see what's the differences, what's the plus points of something else.
No, that's it. I think that's something that, unless you're a contractor doing work for a lot of different companies, it's sometimes hard to leave. You've got the stock in your unit, you've got your pricing all set up and all of that, but when you can do a lot more contracting, you're kind of getting a taster of what everyone else is using as well, which is quite good. So to bring us back to the timeline, and so you've done all this stuff during COVID to your house, and you're kind of getting the itch again for being on the tools, and you're kind of thinking, right, well, I'm getting towards 40. I want to try and push things forward. So how does that go from there then?
So probably a little bit of a difficult conversation, but it was quite quick actually. I just sort of made the decision, but in a good way. I think I got myself into a good position with Wigwag. We'd sorted a lot of issues out. It was running really well. There was a great team there, so it was kind of in a way easy for me to just sort of step aside from what I was doing there, and everything still ran without me.
So is that a difficult conversation with the family then? Is that what the difficult, or was that a difficult conversation with Wigwag?
With Wigwag, yeah.
Right.
The family, I kind of, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, okay.
And I think
always going to be in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, go and celebrate my birthday. I went up to York, actually, ironically, for a birthday. And then came back and thought, right, okay, well, I'm on the tools now. What do I do? Better find some customers quick.
Yeah, that's it. So was your aim to go back to renewables then, or were you just thinking I'll try and do a bit if I can, but just go back into, say, just like it's just as justified, but going into doing electrical work and seeing where you can go?
So I in my mind I thought, well, the only way I'm going to get into renewables and do that side is going to have to be propped up by doing some real work to get me going. So electrical, so it would have been probably rewires, it would have been domestic work, EICRs, etc. So I obviously booked on the 18th edition, sort of joined back up with NAPIT, realised then the goalposts had moved, so then I needed to get a full-on level 3, so I didn't have that before, so then I had to book on a load of courses for that and to do a portfolio, which takes quite a while. So I did that side, but managed to start getting some work in, and I was actually on, and you'll remember this probably, I was actually on the 18th edition update course, funnily enough, with the tutor that had done 17th edition in 239.
Right.
We were still teaching. And I think it was a lunch break, and I just looked on Instagram. I think I'd seen some of your stuff on YouTube, and I wasn't really into Instagram. I was never really that into it, but YouTube was really taking me interest because there's a lot of good videos on there about solar and like that. But I'd seen you were on Instagram, so I'd followed you on Insta and a few others, and you put a note out on there just asking for help on a job in Leicester. I was like, well, that's around the corner from me. I was born there.
Yeah.
So I was on this course and dropped you a message and didn't hear anything for a while. So he's not
we were
interested.
just trying to get anybody else. No.
And you replied and said, I'll give you a call later. And you spoke to me and said, what experience have you got? I was like, well, I've re-roofed my house, took the panels off, put them back on type thing, and you went, we'll give it a go.
That sounds like a conversation we would have, yeah. No, that's it. And I remember the exact job that it was, and it was I think that was the job that we nearly put panels on next door as well.
Yes, we nearly overstepped the boundary of the roof because it was joined.
It was like a big office block, and
we can get some more panels on here.
Something like
I think when you tap next door up for the job, not that it actually just gone onto their roof.
No, we the scaffolding. I think the scaffolding went further than what the boundary of the property was, and then we looked and we're like, the gutter, it's a weird place for the gutter. And then the fall pipe actually was like 1.5 meters back, so I think I'd even gone inside to say we could probably fit more panels on this than what we think. So that was your fault, Mike. No, but no, I remember that, and the difficult thing is obviously when we're looking, and I can only speak for my company here, but when we're looking at having other people on site to help us, there's always that risk that you get somebody that doesn't want to do a good job, doesn't really want to follow any instruction on how you do it as a company, rude to the customers and all of this stuff. And when the thing that really struck me about when you came on site was that you were just really keen to work and to work hard. That's what any of us want to have companies, isn't it? We just want people to turn up and basically work hard and do a good job. And I think sometimes people can forget that they are the core values of being a worker, no matter if it's your company or not. You just want to turn up, do a good job and work hard at it and give the customer a really good result. And I think that was something that struck me, was that you knew your way around the kit. You only had to be showed once. Or twice, because you'd put all the hooks in the wrong place. But, once or twice where stuff should go. And then after that, it was a case of just rinse and repeat and what have you. But when you were doing your training and everything, Mark, when you're looking at doing solar and what have you, how did you find kind of learning about the whole solar side? Did you and your guys kind of pick that up fairly quickly, or did you find it?
I was, in terms of the electrical side, I was quite happy with all of that. That didn't on me at all. I was comfortable with that, but it was more the physical act of going on a roof and fitting panels. So Stuart Cater, massive shout out to him. He was a great sounding board, and he actually allowed us to go and work with him for a little bit. But my guys who were really keen in doing all this work, you know, they always look to me for training in the normal electrical side of things. Like, well, how do we do this? And I can show them, I can tell them, whatever it is in normal electrical stuff, not a problem. But when they're on about working on a roof, how do we fit a hook here? How do we work with this tile? I'm like, well, I don't know. It's not something I've done before. So we were in a position of looking for contractors to work with us to help fill that knowledge gap a little bit. Be that roofers. We thought about, and we did have a roofer come and work with us, but the reliability side of that was a disaster. And then other electricians who were specific to doing solar mounting. There's a lot of those people knocking around. You'll work with loads of them, I'm sure, Sam.
Yeah.
And it was just seeing Mike working with you guys, and I think we've been chatting on DMs a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's like, this is a decent guy who I get on with. I'd be more than happy to have him on site with us if he would come and work for us. That was the main question, that is, if he's available and wants to work with us. And then passing those skills and knowledge on to Matthew and Nathan, where they can ask someone who does know. That was what was important to me, I think, to put a bit of that knowledge into younger guys who were like you, maybe when you first started working with Sam. They're really keen, they want this knowledge, but it's finding people who can give it to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and do you think, it's a bit of a loaded question because I sort of know the answer, but do you think your experience with doing roofing work back in, you know, your own house, and I know you're on with a roofing job at the minute, you know, and all that sort of stuff, do you think that helped you know your way around? You had a bit of a head start on maybe being the first time up onto a roof?
Yeah, absolutely. And having seen sort of, you know, taken apart the existing install on my house, seeing how the hooks fitted and understood that. So when we were first on site, like you say, you only really had to show me how you wanted it and how it lays out to the design. You know, it all made sense. You know, whereas I think if you've never done that side, it would probably take a bit of learning and a bit of experience to
things like
that.
getting the tiles out and, you know, lifting the tiles out and, you know, noticing when the felt isn't any good, and just those kind of little things that are quite hard to teach, but you do get them over time. But you know, if you've got that bit of experience behind you, you can kind of, you don't need teaching that, so you can look at, like, you know, what is Solar Edge, what is, you know, Tego, what is all these different end phase, all these other systems, because you've got that knowledge already of fixing systems and everything like that.
Yeah, because the roofing side's a whole different ballgame. It's not. It's nowhere near like wiring a consumer unit or understanding that side. It's completely different. It's not an electrician's job traditionally.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think, not to offend any roofers, but I think the reliability of most electricians puts people like yourself that do a lot of work for others, Mike, in good stead, because I don't know why it seems to be that you get roofers, plasterers, and all that. They just don't seem to be reliable. you know, they say they're going to turn up, they don't turn up, or they do turn up, but they're, you know, they're shouting and swearing and all this and that. And I think that's what stopped me as a sort of Oval as a business looking at using purely roofing contractors for this type of work, because I just need that reliability. And I think people like Mike that are doing that are kind of the best of both worlds, because they know the way around cable, but they also know the way around roofs as well. So I think there's a bit of a market for that, to be honest.
There absolutely is. Like solar roofing contractors, there's definitely a market for that. I mean, in terms of working on a roof, I'm quite happy that I'd be able to do it. But my issue is the heights. I really hate heights. So when I'm up there, I've got most of my hands holding onto something so I don't fall off. So I'm next to no use to my guys. And yeah, the roofers was a disaster. They're not reliable. They don't turn up. So it was a case of trying to reach out through social media to find people who were happy to come and work with us on that basis, rather than building up the team, employing somebody. As new entrants to industry, that was my concern, that we take someone on, and not so much that we couldn't afford to pay them, but I didn't want them sat around not doing what they want to do. So if we start saying, actually, we're going to do an EICR this week because we've not got enough solar work. So it was reaching into that subcontract network to help fill people's diaries up with jobs that we've got going on, because we need that help. I think it's best of both worlds.
Yeah, because I think the one thing for me as well was that if the solar work dried up and we had a roofer on the books, I couldn't get him to go and do some sockets for Mrs. Smith down the road. There had to be roofing work for that person to do, whereas yes, you pay more for an electrician, but at least they can go and do other work. If it's raining, if it's, if the work dries up. But as far as what you kind of see, Mike, then for you moving forward, are you in a position now that you are enjoying the type of work with working with other contractors, or do you want to do more of the electrical side and all of that sort of thing? Where do you kind of see your progression in that?
Yeah, so I mean, I could joke and say I only like working with Oval. I think I'm sat right,
That's another
right
50
next to
quid.
the wrong person to say that. No, the variance, and actually, like you say, just being able to work with different contractors. One, fulfilling a need and being reliable. That's awesome, really, because it helps both sides. I'm busy. You're able to get the jobs out that you need to get out. And the variance of it, being able to do different things and travel different places, for me it suits me really well, and I really enjoy that.
Because I know you've done some work for Dan DMH, who we've had on the podcast as well.
Really excellent people that have sort of reached out to me, and I don't know whether you've been putting the word out or something like, we don't want him anymore, take him. But yeah, people keep reaching out unexpectedly, and can you come and help? And there obviously, like you say, there's a need, for that assistance when you need it.
That's the power of social media right there, isn't it? I think if you're present, we said that on the last week's podcast, if you're present with yourself online and other people see what you can do, it speaks for you, doesn't it? In a way nothing else can, really.
It does, and if you're putting real work out there as well, if you're a person that's just basically showing what you're doing, other professionals that have their own businesses that are looking for other people can spot a cowboy a mile away. If they're doing videos, they're maybe even just panning past. I know I see it all the time. I never really comment on it, but you pan past someone's showing you the install on Instagram, and you're like, those hooks are miles apart. You should have another hook in. But they're not even talking about that. But that's the same when probably you're sharing stuff, Mike. You're going, right, we're just on this job today, this, that, and the other. Other people, that like myself or others can see that and go, oh, that's done really nice. I like how all the cables have all been kept up off the roof and just little things like that. You're not even talking about it, but you're seeing it and you're showing it. Like you said, the power of social media, because it reaches everywhere.
I think this is where you stood out to me on YouTube. That I saw your installs on YouTube. I went, gosh, they're high end. If I aspire to do an install, I want to be reaching those levels. Because
I'm not going to be able to afford to come here anymore, mate. That's another 50 quid.
I thought Mike was talking to me then.
Well, to bring it later on when I discovered you, Mark.
Turned YouTube off.
No, but I think as much as YouTube has been a really good marketing tool for us, it builds that trust with customers to show, look, and it also brings that responsibility in to the people that work for you, be it people like yourself, Mike, that are coming as subcontractors, but also employed people, that this is the standard that the customer is expecting. Don't let us down by just lashing stuff in, because we can hold everybody to account from the last job we've done, and that's the quality that we need. So yeah, social media is good for that, good for advertising, but good also for holding everybody to account, because people spot a shoddy install a mile away if they're used to seeing a really good one.
Yeah, we often joke at some of the posts we see now.
There's some.
Why?
Yeah.
Just stop following me. I think that's the problem.
Not all. But yeah, there's some interesting ones out there, but it's a learning journey for them, I suppose.
It is. Do you have a desire for building up your own kind of installation business where you have people come and work for you, or are you happy going off working for others?
Do you know what? I've got absolutely no desire for employing people, running a warehouse, and nothing fills me more with dread about dealing with people's issues, and I just want to turn up and get the job done.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? But I think in a lot of these conversations we've had, Sam, because people have different objectives, don't they? Like some people are happy on PAYE job roles, some people want to build a business, and some people just want to get around and do a bit of subcontracting. I think there's space for all those different things, and none of it is really better than any of the other. It's just what we all want.
No, absolutely not. And there is there is so many positives to doing what you're doing, Mike, because, you know, the whole cash flow side of things, there's no materials apart from fuel and van maintenance and things. But it's, you know, you're turning up, you're spreading your liability because you work for 4 or 5 different companies. So if one goes bust, you know, you're not, that isn't all of your work that's gone, and hopefully that doesn't happen, certainly for us two here.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but you know, that's a wise move, because obviously if you know, if we go bust as a company, then there's going to be wholesalers and everybody out of pocket, and if you know, there's a contract that just works for us, then if they haven't been paid their full wage is going to be lost. Whereas at least if something happened to us, and you're working for 4 other companies, you've got 3 other companies that you can tout for more work, and if you're good at your job, which you are, then you know you're not going to have any problems getting any work. Certainly in a solar boom like there is now.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I say, not had any problems getting people been reaching out, and I didn't really like doing the whole Instagram thing and the stories, and I can remember, I think it was on the second job we were on, just before Christmas. I said, how do you do this? And I think you even said I didn't really like doing it for a start, but I kind of just remembered that every post I did or every video I do, it just leads to more work. So I just kept that in the back of my mind that, you know, I don't like the sound of my voice or whatever, and you know, it's a bit annoying sometimes. You just want to get on with the job, but actually you need to take that time to keep posting and keep people engaged, and it has led to more work. You know, there was a job I was doing, another job in Leicester. I was there on my own doing the hooks and rails, and I'm going to be a bit lonely today. I'm not used to not having like, Bill or Ollie with me or Dino, and do you know what? I'm just going to stick the Instagram live on. And I stuck it on, and it was like, I could think, like, when you stick a live on, there's probably 70 odd people drop on that live, and I was like, it's on. 0. No one on the live. Well, you know what? I'm just going to leave it on because I'm bored anyway. So I left that on, and I realised that people have sort of been dropping in and out. And obviously it's a working day for people, so they're busy. And there was a chap on there, Sean from Millrace Electrical, and he dropped in and out of the live a few times, and then started interacting, messaging, and that. And I sort of messaging back. And he kept checking in, and that led actually on to, believe it or not, we did one of the biggest installs I've ever worked on, and did that with Ollie, and that was that one in Blackburn, the horse box factory. Called it 525 panel monster.
Yeah. Wow! Just from doing a live, basically.
Just from doing an Instagram live that I never really wanted to do, and when I switched it on, there was no one on it.
No, that's it. You can't quantify those little. You know, you look back, and if you look back at those stats and go, wow, there was 5 people that came in and out. It only takes one of those people to be someone that's like your next big job. I know the podcast we've just done, Mark, with Aidan, you know, the whole LinkedIn thing, and it kind of kicked me up the backside to just start posting a bit more on there, because I'd relaxed on that a little bit, and you just don't know, that one post you think, oh, it's all right, might be the one that does, you know, you get loads of traction with, and then the one that you think, oh, this is fire, this is going to be fantastic, nobody cares about it. You just don't know how it's going to land with people, do you?
Yeah, and it was months later, but you know, but it started that conversation, and shout out to Sean, because his standards are really high. He does some really high end domestic work as well, but he dropped on some of these solar jobs, and I think he's hoping to get more into that solar side as well. But it can take months, but it's like you say, it's probably being about you, showing people what you can do, and
I mean, in the solar side of things, we've not been using subcontractors at all, really, aside from yourself, Mike. But historically, we've used loads, and generally they've not been very good. So just like you said earlier on in this podcast, Sam, working hard, the right attitude, been keen, attention to detail. You don't necessarily have to know everything about everything. That's so important, I think, and there's an opportunity for people to progress in the solar industry, because knowledge, you know, it's not where it should be among electricians yet. So there's an opportunity for everyone coming into that space where you're not really going to be judged on knowing what every inverter can do, and getting all your ratios right with your DC to AC side. It's just about applying yourself, really, I think. And you've done that brilliantly with us, Mike. So massive thanks, because our business has progressed, I think, from working with yourself from where it was. You've helped us. Probably stealing all Stam's ideas via yourself into our
I train them up and everyone steals them.
PV Ultra being the one. I asked Mike yesterday, I was like, how do you tell on a 4-core PV Ultra which pairs which? And he's like, oh, different colours in the inner sheath. Like, oh, that makes sense. Like,
I think they've gone back to the dotted lines on the outside now because of the trouble with not being able to see that when you've got the MC4s on and stuff. So they went back to...
Yeah, I learnt from a mistake on that one. I think it was a Friday afternoon in a dark loft in winter, freezing cold. Which one is which? I think I messaged you or the group and went, how the...
do we find out? No, we...
You just do this.
we had to feed that back to them. But no, it's great. And I think, it's such an interest. I'm just looking back over my notes here from it. So going through your story, you kind of been told as a youngster by your granddad to be a Sparky, and then ultimately becoming a renewable Sparky after doing IT and web design, then go back on the tools, then doing similar thing and helping scale the business up to then being a Sparky again. It's such a topsy-turvy way to get to effectively being an electrician again, but that builds so much character, doesn't it? And it shows you so much that you'll be able to go through and be quite flexible with what you do, which I think is tricky, because I don't think I would be anywhere near as flexible as going into different sectors, not even just in electrical, but different sectors in web design or all these other different areas that a lot of people work in. I think I would be very worried to do that. So props to you for doing that, because it takes a brave man to jump from left to right and to be in it for a long time as well. That's what struck me, is to not only go from one thing to another, but to 7 years, then 7 years. You're not just in it for a second.
Yeah, it's always like that 7-year itch, though, isn't it?
How far are we into the electrical side this time?
Not quite 2 years yet.
All right, we've got plenty of time.
Got a little bit of time, Just keep me focused.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
was there anything else that you wanted to touch on, Mike, before we wrap this up from your experience? Any words of wisdom or anything like that you kind of had for people?
Yeah, well, I think the one thing that you kept me coming back to you was you said on that first job, I'm going to get you a T-shirt. So,
he's got one now.
Yeah, finally, after nearly 2 years, I've got the T-shirt. But no, I was actually on that first job. I was actually quite worried, because I thought you were going to ask me if I wanted to apply for a job. I was thinking in my head, I really don't want to be employed. I don't, please don't ask me for a job. Please do. I want to just keep coming back on a contract basis, because I wanted to sort of see where this could go, what I needed to do, and really get teeth into the industry, and whether did I really need to sort of scale up myself and have a team and that. And then I knew in the back of my mind that wasn't really what I wanted to do. But with renewables, you obviously need quite a few people. You can't. Unless you're Dan at DMH, you can't really do it on your own, because you can't lift them batteries on the wall on your own.
He's not on his own anymore.
No, he's just got a new guy. Yeah. So what's your kind of take off from that then? What's your big? Have you got something that you've learned through going through all of this?
So appreciate every day. Be really appreciative of the opportunities that are put in front of you. Like saying that. Just reaching out to a post with yourself, that led to, nearly 2 years of stuff we've done together, and then that led to, obviously, the likes of working with you, Mark. Just be really grateful and appreciative, but have a good ethic as well. If you're going to tell someone you're going to turn up, be honest. If you're going to be a little bit late, like this morning I said to you, running, a little bit late, I should have left my house a bit earlier. Just be honest with people. The honesty just helps get the job done ultimately, because everyone knows where they stand. And just do what you're going to say you're going to do. And if you don't know something, just ask. And if you're afraid to ask it in a different way, or you could even just say, just show me how you would do that in your way. And you'd soon pick it up. And just be open to, and be prepared to step out of the boat once in a while. And do something you're not comfortable with.
Jump into the big wide world sometimes. Yeah, no, that's very good. And on a personal note from me, thank you very much for your hard work on the oval jobs, because like Mark said, I echo that. It's helped us progress because it's very difficult to get people that you can trust. I've been very lucky with the people we've got that we're working with now and that we've worked with in the past that, you know, we have been able to trust them, but it is a big risk, isn't it, Mark, on that? You're kind of putting your name to what someone else is going to do sometimes. And yeah, so thank you very much for your hard work from on the oval side. But yeah, have you got anything else, Matt, that you wanted to go through? I think we're at a good
Yeah,
point,
no, it's just to thank Mike really, and say, echo what we've been discussing and what you've just said there, that there's a big space for people, although it feels work's slowing down a little bit, but there's this renewables thing that's coming, there's this massive wave, and there's an opportunity for lots of people who might want to transition into this sector and do stuff like what Mike's doing, so that you're an inspiration maybe for other people following along to what he's done. And he's got involved with the safe isolation campaign as well, so props to you on that one too, because I think that's a nice opportunity for contractors who want to do a bit of something to give back to industry. And we've got two things there, with the Apprentice 1-to-1 and there's the safe isolation side of stuff, where it's a mechanism for people who don't know quite how to do something to give back. Because I used to have these ideas, I'd love to do something, but what the hell can I do? And these things have all kind of sprung up now, and Mike's in the thick of it.
Yeah, it's been great. I really enjoyed going down to install a show and meeting with lots of people, and then also being able to meet the group at Safe Isolation that's forever growing, more and more people wanting to get involved, and it's just amazing, that sort of network effect. And you know, and I think to relate that to your business as well, open your network, you know, reach out to your contacts, because someone will know someone, or help someone else find some work through someone. You know, I think I reached out to you the other week, Mark, trying to find some work for someone, and you open doors for them, and it's just brilliant, really. So yeah, thank you both.
Yeah, it was an interesting meeting, because I'd spent most of the day getting mocked by people like Sam for my catwalk, and then I had people running industry essentially mocking me for exactly the same thing. So it's getting it from every direction.
You held your ground really well there. I think you owned that catwalk.
Yeah, the cartwheel was a bit over the top that you did, but never mind. But no, thank you very much, Mike, for coming on. I'll let Mark wheel us out since I wheeled us in. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike, and brilliant hosting on this one, Sam. You did a sterling job there. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do drop your comments in below. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you thought it was a bit sketchy. Give it a share on social media as well. We're trying to grow this and spread it out as far as we can. It's still in its infancy. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.